Hey everyone, we're going to look at two ways to write linear functions. So you'll kind of see in the box, it talks about two common ways. There's slope-intercept, they give us a certain form, and then there's point-slope. So we're going to explore both of those today, and we're also going to be able to convert one to the other. Okay. We'll also talk about how to find and use a graph to help us write an equation. And we may even get into, if we don't today, in the next couple days, how to get from a table to one of those forms. So we're going to look at a bunch of different ways, and all of them have to do with different representations of functions. So if we go into exercise 1, they give us this linear function. They call it f of x. And again, f of x just is basically a name for the function. That's kind of your name, and then the 3x plus 5 is the math that's being done. So they want us to evaluate 0 in our function. So to do that, we would have to take x out, put 0 in. We talked about this when we did function notation. So you get 3 times 0, 0 plus 5 is 5. So 5 would be the y-intercept. And they want us to find its average rate of change over the interval -2 to 3. So to kind of streamline the process, I'm going to pull out the calculator. I'll turn it on, go to y equals, and I'll do 3x plus 5. And then I'm going to go to the table, second graph, and it says do -2 and 3. So I'm going to get my points from this table. I got -2, -1, and then I got 3, 14. Now, like I've said before, you can do bottom minus top or top minus bottom, but you want to do the same thing in both directions for x and y. So -2 minus 3 would be -5. I'm doing top minus bottom. And -1 minus 14 would be -15. And then you divide the y value by the x value. And you're going to get 3. That's going to be our slope. And then if you notice, 3 is that first number in the equation. So that is the slope, or sometimes we call it the rate of change. Now we're going to move on to exercise 2. And for this one, they don't give us an equation, they give us a description. So consider a line whose slope is 5 and which passes through the point -2, 8. So they want us to do A first, which is write the equation in point slope. Now, you need a point, so you have x1, y1, or -2 and 8. And we already knew that the slope was 5. So m is slope, so that's going to go, 5 is going to go there. And then we got x minus -2, which would be x plus 2. And then you got y minus 8, because y1 was 8. Now, they want us to write the equation of this line in slope-intercept form. Well, what we can do is we can take that point-slope form, and to get slope-intercept form, you have to do 2 steps. You have to distribute, and you get 5x plus 10. And then you have to add 8 to both numbers. Don't add it to the 5x because they're not like terms like we talked about in the first unit. Then you get 5x plus 18. Now, a good way to check would be to go to y equals in the graphing calculator and see if that point is in fact on the line. Okay. It's also helpful for linear functions, or when we're doing multiple choice questions with linear functions. So for 3, they want us to figure out an equation that is parallel to y equals 3/2 x. Now, if they're parallel lines have the same slope. So that's the most important part with parallel. We'll talk about perpendicular on the back. But I'm not going to give away the answer on this, but what I'd like you to look for is look for the questions or choices that have that slope. Kind of narrow it down from there. And then go on to the rest of the question where it says passes through the point 6, -8. See if you can figure out what that answer is on your own. Okay? And if you're in class when you're doing it, have me check it, okay? So we're going to flip over to the back. I'm going to erase this. And we're going to go ahead and look at exercise 4. I'm going to get you started on this one, and I'm going to have you write the equations in the forms that are provided. But in this case, we have these 2 points. We have 5 and -2, and then 20 and 4. So I can find the slope or the rate of change first, and I'm going to subtract top minus bottom. So I got -2 minus 4, which is -6, and 5 minus 20, which is -15. So I got -6 on top and -15 on the bottom. And you can use the fraction option in the calculator to help you reduce the fraction. So if I do -6 divided by -15, press math, and then convert to a fraction, you get 2/5. So 2/5 is the m value, or slope. Okay. Now you can use, and I would like you to work on part B and part C, kind of like I talked about in exercise 2. You can do that one on your own. And the last part we're going to look at, we're not going to do the whole question for exercise 5. But what we are going to talk about, one of the most important parts, is the perpendicular part. So if you look at A, they want us to write the equation. Well, when you write an equation, you need the intercept, the y-intercept, and the slope. So we got to fill in those values. So your y-intercept is going to be 1. And it's +1 because it's a 1 up. And then you want to go to the right. So you would go up. I went up 2, and then over 1. So that would mean my slope would be 2 over 1 x, with the x next to the slope. But I can write this as just 2x plus 1. So that's my equation for A. So remember, you got your y-intercept here, touches the y-axis, and then do your movement. Now, if we want a slope of a line perpendicular, what we're going to have to do is take that slope that we had, and you have to flip the fraction and change the sign. So they want us to draw a line perpendicular to the one we were just shown that passes through the point 1, 3. So to do part C, and this is the last part we're going to do together, I'm going to go to that point 1, 3. So that point 1, 3 is right here. I got it marked in green. And then it says -1, 2. So you're going to have to go down 1 and over 2 spaces, and this would be the next point. And if you continue that pattern in each direction, you can get an idea as to where the line is. So this is where that perpendicular line would end up being in this case. Okay. So remember, with that perpendicular, make sure you change the sign and flip the fraction over. Sometimes people call it the reciprocal. Okay. So that should help you with the questions on the second page as you go through. And you'll see those words perpendicular and parallel like we just talked about. And there will also be questions that have you write equations, and they'll specify which form it is.